Welcome to Brash Ag, the farm innovation podcast with hosts Raymond King and Kit Franklin.
Namaste, Raymond.
Namaste. How are you doing? Is it hot enough for you where you are? Your house quite well insulated. You're probably all right.
It's well insulated. We've got a lot of south-facing windows, Ray, so when the suns are blazing, it does get a little bit warm. I shut the curtains and things. But no, it's pretty pleasant where I'm sat. And to be honest, we had a downpour of rain to clear the air in the last couple of hours. So that's been good growing conditions, I suppose you should say. But Ray, we're going to head back to cereals for our second roundup of interviews from stands and exhibitors around cereals. We had a really good start last week, didn't we? What did you enjoy last week? I think I probably enjoyed hearing from our German company Samcam with Zoe, who took the mick out of us. She was good fun, although her product was expensive, wasn't it? But you should go back to listen to that if you want to be shocked by a price. Go back to last week's episode. Anything? What did you like, Ray?
I really enjoyed the RTKF net. I thought it was cool to hear about them sort of spreading their wings into other industries and still with ag at their core, but yeah, spreading their wings a little bit. And big shout out to them actually for a very nice share of a little clip of our interview on their social media. So good to see that. Hopefully a few people listening now have seen that. So yeah, if you want to hear a bit more from them, check out last week's episode.
So we got across a good number. Anyway, we've got more to share this week from machinery companies, some big names. We've got Fendt coming up at some point. We've got drone ag for you sort of drone nerds. We've got some sensing technology. Yeah, but we're going to start by heading over to Opaco to hear about some new products that they are representing here in the UK.
So we're here on the Opaco stand with Tom Brook. Kind of caught our eye was the Rumex machine. So it's got how many nozzles on it?
220 nozzles spaced at 40 millimeters. Whereas the grassland version has a spacing that only goes up to 6 meters, is spaced at 70 millimeters.
And so what's the concept? So it's a sprayer. The idea is it's super accurate. Is that?
Yeah, super accurate. So the machine itself is AI. So it's got 6 sets of cameras on it, doing 100 trillion flows of operation per second. So a very quick, very smart machine. Identifies certain weeds, certain crops, depending on what algorithms are set and what you're looking at, to effectively put a selective herbicide straight onto that weed.
So it reminds me a little bit of the UK robotics machine with all the nozzles on it.
Very similar. We're not obviously slightly wider and not hooded.
Yeah.
We do run lights at 43,000 units lumens per unit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very similar to that in the aspect of the same sort of crops it can do, but wider and different cameras on it.
So what sort of forward speeds is it capable of running?
So this machine here up to 12k.
Oh wow, cracking on.
Yeah, I'd say obviously that might come from the grassland side a little bit, but I've seen them working at 8 to 10k quite comfortably.
And I guess it will feed back to you if it starts missing stuff, and like you as an operator, it'll tell you what.
It's all very data driven with it.
Yep.
So there's cameras on the end. If you feel like it's not picking something up, you record, send it back through the tablet to Rumex, and they can rebuild an algorithm for you. So it's all very data driven. So at the moment, the machine there's a number of different crops. There's other crops that's doing really well in, because obviously there's more sold into those crops.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there obviously at the moment it's been trained on certain things, but I guess it's probably, if it's fairly new to the market, it's not going to have every weed in its database yet.
You don't always have to do that though. You're better off putting your weeds into what family it is and what herbicide you're doing. So your broadleaf grass, your potato as a volunteer potato is quite a option for in it for onions.
Cool. And how is this a first model you've got here in the UK,
first one in the UK? Literally turned up last Friday.
Brilliant. Okay, but you guys have been seeing this working in the market in Europe.
Yeah.
And
so we first got attention of Agri-Technica last year, I think it was, and then I've been over a month ago to training and actually went for a pretty much a spray day on an onion field out there with other competitors there, and it performed really well.
I mean, it looks like a really smart bit of kit. It's well put together. It's got some nice powder coat on it.
Actually, there's something to talk about the spray paint. It's actually galvanized and painted. So it's galvanized, etched, then so that it's built to last.
Yeah. You can see it's been well designed. So yeah, certainly. Cool. Whilst we're on the Opaco stand, Ray likes to call me the Farm Droid fanboy. So
Yeah.
have we got any updates on Farm Droid? What's the sales numbers? And I think when I was in Denmark 18 months ago, they just launched the spot sprayer for the Farm Droid. Have we managed to see any spot sprayers in the UK yet?
Yeah. There was one. We saw one up in Scotland. There's another one into Oxfordshire. As a demo on Clarkson's Farm that's actually released today. So that's going to be out on Amazon Prime.
So get onto Clarkson's Farm. You can see a Farm Droid operating.
Yeah. The other new thing is the Plus 14, which is a good job we come to this side of the machine because we now have a bigger hopper and a bigger seed unit. So obviously it's always been up to what we call the plus 6mm. So seeds up to 6. The whole machine was designed around organic sugar beet.
Yeah.
So now we actually have up to 14mm. So that now lets us do our peas, beans, and maize sort of crops. So allowing us to do more with the product that we've got here.
Yeah, great. Cool. Well,
I'm going to say we missed two crucial questions. So with the Rumex machine,
yep,
how much are you going to cost?
Machine like that is around 140.
Okay.
Because that's our biggest and most nozzled. Obviously, the grasslands are a cheaper version of that and 6 meters wide.
And then the Farm Droid, the new Farm Droid.
Yeah, the Farm Droid, that's depending on spec, because that is really specable. That's anywhere from 70 all the way up to 140 if you really go with the spot sprayer and 12 units and all. So,
rightio. Well, thank you very much, and we'll sure to catch up in future about how the Rumex gets on.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, definitely. No, have it out in field soon.
Great to hear from Tom Brooks there from Opico. He talked us through the Rumex sprayer. So we've, as I mentioned, as I trailed when we did our lead in to our cereals episode, there's lots of spot spray technology being sort of unveiled and trailed through the show, and I think that was one of my takeaways at that point was how it was really starting to kind of get a toehold. So it was really great to hear about the Rumex machine now. I mean, it's hard to describe other than an incredible number of nozzles. It's anyone that sells nozzles, it is really, they're going to have a field day when they turn up and they want to service that.
Dare I say a magnificent array of nozzles across that machine. To give it its dues, a serious level of control in terms of capacity of a microcontroller to look after that many, I guess, hundreds of nozzles across that boot.
It was quite something to behold. So, and I'd love to see one operating in the field. I think that would be really exciting to see. Also,
I'm just thinking, like, technically though, Ray, trying to be an engineer for a little second, which we haven't done a lot of engineering on the pod recently, but we are both engineers. Genuinely, that many nozzles and that many relays essentially to trigger all those solenoids, there is a real potential issue with voltage drop and things not behaving, and so there is some engineering challenges in that many nozzles being triggered. It'd be fine if one or two are being triggered at any time, but if you suddenly get a situation where half are on, that's a lot of current draw and a potential voltage drop and things starting to misbehave. I genuinely,
pressure. I suppose you got pressure drops as well in the fluid system as well. You see that drop down, and no doubt there'll be horrible situations that the engineers will have to deal with CAN bus and trying to make it all talk to everything, and ISOBus potentially as well. So there's a lot of engineering challenges there in actually pulling that solution together. Also good to hear from Opico. They gave you a nice little run through Farm Droid fanboy, and we had a little look at the latest from Farm Droid.
Larger capacity on the hoppers, able to deal with bigger seeds. What I have to say, actually, Ray, is Farm Droid is starting to trail in recent days, that there is a potentially new version or a new edition of Farm Droid coming out, and it sounds as though they have fallen into the human condition. They have fallen into the traditional marketing condition that is, it's going to be bigger, larger, heavier. All the things that I really like about the Farm Droid look like they might well be going out the window with some of the trailing they've done of version 2. So maybe I'll be losing my fandom soon, but at the moment that's just hearsay, but we'll wait and see on that one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Should we head over to our interview with Michael from the Agri-Tech Centres UK?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's get an update of what's happening at the Agri-Tech Centres, and Michael specifically talking about how if you're out there as an innovator, how they might be able to support you with some of that work. Okay, so we've just bumped into Michael Reardon of the UK Agri-Tech Centre. Mike, you've got some exciting funding opportunity news you can share with us, and maybe just talk a bit more in general about Agri-Tech Centre, but tell us about...
Sure.
Yeah.
So at the UK Agri-Tech Centre, we support agri-tech businesses to test, trial, validate their products, help to sort of grow and scale. And we've got a relatively new program called the Sprints program. And essentially, if you're an agri-tech business, you can apply to us with your challenge, some sort of really knotty challenge that you're really struggling to push through. It could be technical, but often it's more commercial challenges. And we will work with you for a really short period of time, about a month. We'll bring our experts into that sprint. We maybe even bring people outside of UK into Agri-Tech Centre. We basically workshop that problem once a month. That's
Great. Have you got any examples you can share of the sorts of maybe people you've worked with or the things you've done, or is it too early?
No, we've run it twice before. So we kicked off an initial pilot back in December last year, and then we've run it once so far this year. So it's like early stage program, but we've supported businesses ranging from sort of really early stage sort of robotics companies to bioacoustics companies to software for animal genetics. So it's like the full range of agri-tech businesses.
The all-encompassing agri-tech.
I know, it's a struggle. It's a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's cool.
And that's on a range of things. So often it's helping do sort of customer discovery, sort of looking at people's pitch decks, looking at investment opportunities. But I mean, if you've got an issue and you think we might be able to work on it over the course of a month, then pitch it to us and we'll let you know if we can.
Okay, and anything else in the world of UK agri-tech that's worth a mention?
Yeah. So, I mean, lots of programs sort of up and running at the moment. We've just run an accelerator called Faster, which is all supporting MRV technology, so measuring, reporting, verification, a lot of remote sensing, data, software. And that was a program where there was a cohort of about, I think, 9 businesses, and it was a range of support, so your classic accelerator, but we had support from industry as well. So so sort of direct access to industry.
I think it's really interesting. It's good to see that you're sort of the ways in which you're sort of offering support. Are you having any sort of like direct contact with farmers themselves and sort of working, alongside that, or is it more supporting the sort of agri-tech businesses?
Yeah. I mean, so the programs that I've mentioned were quite specifically like commercially related, but we have a network of about 20 farms that we work with directly, so we can test and trial, validate technologies on the farms with real farmers in a commercial environment. So we do that as well.
Okay, that's good. I think that's we've already had conversations along those lines, haven't we, today, about making sure farmers are kind of involved in the process of actually developing the products and actually providing the feedback. So it's good that you can kind of offer that alongside, more direct support to agri-tech firms.
I think it's so important, and it weirdly seems to be the thing that gets missed quite a lot. It's if you're building a product, ultimately it's got to solve someone's pain point. And in ag tech, almost always it's the farmer, isn't it? And it's something that does get missed. But it's a challenging sector because farmers are struggling. So it's got to work for farmers ultimately.
Yeah, I think we've potentially gone past at one point there was almost a glut of money, people following their whims as developers and their whims as innovators. And I think that glut is somewhat past. So it is focusing minds, is it not? And making people really actually consider farmers' problems.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great that innovation does come out of, universities, pushing the boundaries of what we know. But then innovation also comes directly from farmers. It can come from anywhere, really. But ultimately, if you want to turn that innovation into a business, then it needs to solve a problem. It needs to do something that, someone's ultimately going to pay for. That might not be the farmer. It might be someone in the sort of agri-food supply chain. But yeah, I think businesses have to be much more focused. Like investment has plummeted in agri-tech over the last 5 to 6 years. So yeah, you've got to really look at your customer, do really good discovery, understand the problem space before you start, pitching for money, essentially.
There you go. Great advice.
That's good.
Thank you very much, Michael. The agri-tech centres, they've been through a few guises now. It's probably getting on for 10 years since they were first announced. Then they were established. These buildings were built. There were multiple centres. There was agri-epi. There was CHAP. There was etc. etc. And then they've come together in the last few years. And there's been questions about what they offer, what they don't offer, how they should be supporting. And it's just really interesting that now, as well as supporting, which I'm sure they are continuing to support with wider government funding, they are now running and rolling out their own funding initiatives and their own support initiatives. And it sounded like an interesting opportunity for somebody who has got a technology and they're just looking for that burst of input to get them over a sort of sticking point in their development cycle, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, we've check out our previous episodes actually where we spoke to Connie, and she sort of gave us a really good understanding of the kind of the funding scene in the US, and they're really kind of leading the way with kind of venture capital funding and other types of funding as well. I mean, check out that episode because it's a goldmine of information around sort of the funding scene in the US. But Michael actually gave us a really good kind of picture of what's going on in the UK, certainly from the sort of government support side of things, but also kind of how that can dovetail with commercial opportunities. So it was really good to kind of get his thoughts on that, and good to see that they've been through a lot of change, but yeah, lots of positive stories and news coming out of there. So yeah, really good.
Twofold opportunity as well from, I think, some of the conversations that we had with Michael once we finished recording classically, but there's not only an opportunity to go to them for some support, but also they are not necessarily offering that support internally, and they might well be going out to experts and consultants to help with that support. So to our audience, that might be a twofold opportunity. To someone who, listeners who are wanting some support with an innovation project, but also maybe there's some listeners out there who are themselves in that sort of consultancy point where maybe they have something to offer as well. So check that out, and obviously you can obviously find Michael on LinkedIn, I think, and check out the agri-tech centre for information on their website. Shall we now head over, Ray, to a voice that I think we failed to have on the podcast until this time? I think we worked out, which seems crazy, but that is DroneAg, and Jack Wrangham, who is the CEO of DroneAg and big in the agricultural drone world in the UK. And I was sure we'd had him on the pod before, but I don't think we actually had. So better late than never, I suppose. Let's hear from Jack. So we found ourselves on the DroneAg stand with CEO Jack Wrangham. Jack, how are you doing this morning?
Not bad, thank you.
What we're looking at is obviously DroneAg, we should say, Skippy Scout, which is cool. I think we've surely spoken about Skippy Scout.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain we've talked about DroneAg.
You've spoken about it with Jonathan a bit from Agri as well.
So there is a tie-up, I think, between yourselves and Agri, isn't there, in terms of...
Yeah, they're one of our biggest users.
Yeah, work very closely together. So, yeah.
So Skippy Scout's been really successful for you, and we know other people who are using it and helping them get the most out of their DJI. But what we're looking at here is a DJI sat on some sort of battery pack in a clamshell. Talk us through it, Jack.
So essentially it is a dock system, a bit like an automated lawnmower. So the drone can come back to its dock, lands, dock closes, and it will recharge in that dock. It's fully waterproof and enclosed, ready to fly again without the need of any pilot on site, essentially, which means we can deploy these at various trial plot locations and eventually farms, and the drone can operate completely autonomously without the need for any kind of pilot there or any piloting.
Yeah, great. So obviously the issue is you've got a drone, you can use it, I can fly on the fields and get loads of really detailed info, but essentially that's an extra job for me as a farmer to do, and there's an extra thing to fit into my schedule. This thing's going to take care of itself.
Exactly. It'll get to the point where the farmer doesn't even need to think about the drone or flying the drone. The drone will automatically collect all the data needed. It'll all be analysed, and then they just get the information when they need it to make decisions.
So what's this drone in this box, what's the sort of range? What's the area that it can cover? And do you have to sort of build them up into a network? Is that the kind of the longer term plan? How are you planning to sort of deploy?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to come down to legislation more than technology limitations. For instance, we have one operating in Italy at the moment. We're operating it on a research site over there, so it's operating within about a 500-meter radius. I think that'll be the case with the UK as well to begin with. But that's just, we need a relatively small site to manage it properly for legislative purposes. But actually, the range of these and the battery flight time now, they could probably cover a good 2-kilometer radius each easily. So we're talking, on a large farm, we might need 2 or 3 to cover a whole farm. But it's that kind of scale.
Okay. How are you addressing the sort of the connectivity piece? I know from my experience putting data capturing equipment into a field, it's great you can capture the data, but how are you actually getting that back to somewhere useful? Are you using Starlink and things like that?
Starlink.
Okay.
Yeah, Starlink all the way. It's been super reliable in the UK and Europe.
And is that incorporated into the box itself, or is that a sort of a separate?
No, it's separate.
Yeah.
So essentially, we have the dock, then we have our own system that sits alongside it that will be Starlink, and then we'll also use solar power and a battery generator if needed as well, so we can be completely off grid.
Cool. And this drone in the box, as well as the box, I had a little look around before we started talking. There's a wind speed meter on it, and it's got its own RTK. So obviously, it fully encloses the drone. So I guess it's waterproof, wind. It's protected from the elements when it's home. And then as long as it knows if conditions are right, and it goes off and flies itself.
Exactly, yeah. So you generally have it on a schedule, and then the drone will operate as close to that schedule as it can, depending on the weather. It can operate in rain. Even when it's open, it's still waterproof. So the drone itself is IP rated. We'd ideally not operate in the rain, but if it does rain while it's flying, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, cool. So we've got to ask the question, Jack, how much does it cost?
It's going to be around about 15,000.
15 grand deployed, all the data you could ever need from. I know, so you've just said, on a big farm, you might need 2 or 3 of these, but what we're talking, one of these could cover 500-600 acres with them under one.
I would push it to 1,000, depending on the spread. Yeah.
So 15 grand, and then you get as near as real-time data as you could from a drone across your farm.
Yeah, exactly. It could be basically daily. So.
Great. Well, any other questions, Ray?
No, I don't think so. No, it's been really cool to actually see it. I often hear a lot of talk about drone in a box solutions, so it's been great to actually see one in the flesh.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Cheers, guys.
Well, drone in a box.
We've heard the term many times, haven't we, Ray?
We've heard about the drone in the box. I think when I was dare I mention the S word, but when I was at a small robot company, I think there was lots of sort of chat about these drone in the box solutions. But I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, I really great to see one in the flesh and actually kind of see, from, as you say, we're talking about the engineering, the engineering that's kind of gone into it. How they've solved some of their sort of challenges around, getting the drone to actually land back in the right place every time. And they created a really nice little cradle that it could kind of just drop down into, kind of a trough. And so that was it was really great to see. And it was actually great to, talk to Jack about it and kind of hear what his thoughts were and getting towards being a very credible sort of farming solution. I think at this stage, everyone sort of talks about that. Cost. It's all right gathering this data, but it's too expensive. And what do we do with it? But you can get to a solution like that where it can kind of manage itself and gather data many times in a season. The cost of data capture kind of starts to drop off.
Yeah, sadly, I think there was certainly a nod in what we were talking about to the fact that where it's being rolled out so far is not in the UK. He's got a system in Italy, he's got a system in France. He's obviously showcasing the system, but at the moment we're still in a scenario where an unsupervised operation of a drone, i.e., essentially a fully autonomous operation of a drone, is not somewhere we are yet at in UK sort of legislation and drone compliance, I suppose, maybe, which is somewhat hindering on buying the drone in the box. The whole idea of the drone in the box is it's a self-sustained solution, and if you're going to have to go out there to watch it because that's what the legal context says you have to do, then it's not much of a benefit, is it? So that's a bit sad, and it's maybe one of these places where I think you and I have both come up against, and just, you see it time and time again in some of this technology we talk about. If we as the UK want to harness the capability of technology, we do have to be a bit more imaginative, and we do have to be a bit more fast to act when it comes to the legislation involved. The drone stuff specifically has largely been locked down because of irresponsible civilian, for want of a better word, public use, i.e. people flying it over football pitches and over festivals when they didn't have permission. But the legislation that was brought in because of those sorts of incidents is now hindering the opportunity for a UK farmer to roll out a really interesting technology that is this sort of fully autonomous drone in a box solution. So that seems, I think if I'm taking anything away from that conversation, more than anything, it's almost that. It's like, look, we seem to be in treacle when it comes to getting through some of these sticky legislation points. Any comeback on that, Ray?
Yeah, no, I think if as ever, I think the drone side of things, the conversations we've had often with drone companies, and we've not spoken to Drone Ag before, but have always been, next month we'll have an update from this XYZ government body, and then the following month we're planning this, and then this month we'll be able to do this, and actually I think that's all a good news story, but it is a slow it's a slow burn. But I think a good news story actually really from Drone Ag. I mean, I had a good conversation with Jack. He came to our Engineers and Beers meetup. We invited him along to the Engineers and Beers meetup, and actually great to kind of hear his story, and maybe we might be able to get Jack on another day and tell us a bit more about the story, but hear from what I would definitely say is a good news story again for kind of UK agri-tech. They started during the big explosion of new technology coming out for agri-tech and funding coming left, right, and centre, but they've really navigated a path through that now, and are in quite a good place, I think.
Touching on the Engineers and Beers, and I hope Jack doesn't mind me saying this, but he was saying to you, well, I'm not really an engineer, Ray, and then proceeded to tell you all about the super clever high-tech stuff he was developing, and you're like, you're absolutely an engineer. So yeah, Jack, believe in yourself if you're listening. And the wider world, I think we as ag engineers are very open to the fact that lots of people who may not traditionally be from an ag engineering background are probably operating as ag engineers, and our little tip to that of our hats to IAGRI. The IAGRI, the Institution of Agricultural Engineers, is there as a home for anybody who's working in technology and development and machinery and etc. In the agricultural space. Okay, Ray. Well, from Drone Ag, who's a fairly well-established UK agri-tech provider, let's go over to Smith Robotics, where we're actually meeting up with maybe a slightly newer person on the scene in Ryan Smith, Smith by company, Smith by name, and we're going to hear about what is potentially a, dare I say it, Balespike product.
So we're here with Ryan Smith of Smith Robotics. Ryan, I can see we've got bats, we've got pigeons. Tell us about it.
Hardware.
We've got hardware.
We essentially make audio recorders. We listen for birds, we listen for bats, sometimes small mammals, although we couldn't find a jellycat of a small mammal. But yeah, it's stuff for conservationists. The reason we're here is because there's lots of farmers out there that want to know what they've got, but
that baseline biodiversity piece.
Yeah,
It's really
exactly.
important. Yeah.
And even just sometimes people want to know if they've got a rare bat or if they've got a really cool bird that they think they've seen out there and they don't actually know. And they also don't have the time to go look for it.
Okay, so is as well as recording, is it doing any sort of quantitative analysis, or have we got to listen back through and work out what's going on, or is it going to say you've got 10 bats and 3 bees?
So it doesn't do bees.
Okay, no bees,
It
everyone.
doesn't do bees. There are people out there that do bees. But
There's ones that do worms as well, that listen to the ground, isn't
well, actually, we make the microphones for the guys that do that. So highly recommend you should go.
Soil Acoustics. We spoke to Soil Acoustics at Groundswell last year.
Yeah. No,
And they've been on Radio 4 and all sorts, haven't they?
so we make the cool little orange bit that sticks in the ground.
Cool. And so the quantitative bit.
The quantity bit. So we basically we give you a load of options. So there's loads of free stuff that you can use to essentially, like, they call it the AI bit, where you can essentially put it through a program and it will just give you a list of all the things it wants or it thinks it is, and like a number where they kind of expect, how realistic is that number. And there's options for birds, there's options for bats, and the bat option that we offer, the BTO pipeline one, also does small mammals. So you can look at, I really like going out looking for like water voles and like field mice and stuff. And cricket, they do a lot of grasshoppers. That fills up a lot of devices.
Deer? Could we understand the bark of a deer in the rut?
I think you could. I don't know if any of them at the moment do actually do it, whether there is actually one that offers it. But if you were looking specifically for it, I'm sure you could.
Yeah. So, so your product, your service, tell us about how that works. What's the business model? Am I renting these from you? Am I buying these from you?
For these particular ones, you're buying them because they're only £100, which is cheaper than any other one on the market. But if you were an innovative company that was trying to do something similar or trying to do that software piece, we can also help with that stuff. So we can make custom hardware for you. We can be hardware partners to do other stuff that's very specific to you. That's kind of the business model. We have this bit, which is cool, and we sell loads of them to lots of groups. But we know that everyone has a slightly different reason. Farmers have a very different thing they're trying to look for to people that are trying to conserve a rare bird in Africa. So
You got we walked past you guys and I recognised you guys because we've spoken before. So you sort of come from an electronics background, haven't you? And the sort of robotic side of things as well.
yeah, we started off as like sort of just pure electronics, like we just made circuit boards for people, and then we kind of found this. It was through Ian actually. He started doing that cool conservation bit and the bit of regenerative stuff. Got super interested especially after going to things like Groundswell.
Say who Ian is for the listener.
Ian Beecher Jones, who is Jojo's Vineyard, which you may have had. I don't know.
I've been there, yeah, and I've spoken to him.
I didn't know if he'd been on the podcast or not.
No, we'd like to get him on actually. So if he's listening, Ian, we'd like you to get you on.
Hashtag Ian Beecher Jones. He also makes very nice wine.
Yeah. Well, it's a Balespike product, Ray.
Yeah, it is a Balespike product actually. You got a product, got a price, and today. So if we turned up today and we had,
You've got a card machine. I can see the card machine.
We have got a card machine. There is no internet here though. So
well, if we had the cash,
if you had
we
the
could
cash,
turn
you
up.
could. And to be fair, I trust you guys.
Yeah, there you go.
But
He has not met us. Right. Cool. Great. Well, right. Thanks a lot for coming on the pod and really interesting stuff. And we love, so we have this thing called a Balespike product, where we love a product that's like cash money. We're not dealing with £60,000 and we're going to go and talk to the bank about finance. We love a product that's just buy it, stick it out, see how it goes. And it's not a bad thing we're saying it's a Balespike product. So cheers.
Really interesting to hear there from Ryan. Ryan's I actually met Ryan and his wife. They were both on the stand. So it's Ryan and Katie. And I met them quite a few years ago, again, when I was working at Ding Ding, small robot company. And we talked about some potential support from themselves around kind of electronics projects and things like that. But it's great to see that they've kind of used that skill set and that capability to actually, as you say, produce a contender at least for a Balespike product. What do you think? Does it qualify? Yeah, I think ultimately it qualifies in at the price point. What I think maybe it doesn't quite qualify yet in my brain, and call me old-fashioned, is it in its essential utility. Okay, so a Balespike is not only cheap, but it's an essential utility that you cannot help but go home with one when you need one. You know, my Balespike's broken. I'm going to the show. I'm going to buy a Balespike. I think the absolute fundamental utility of this sort of biodiversity data capture is yet to maybe play out. Does that make any sense, Ray?
Yes, I mean, I think it was interesting, and we definitely awarded. We should actually come up with a real award for this for shows. I think, but the Balespike of the show.
We actually should, Ray. We could do a great bit of promo. Every show we go to, we give out a little
trophy,
a little Balespike trophy.
Yeah,
you could 3D print it, spray it up silver spray paint.
Yeah,
put it on a bit. I could turn a bit of wood in the workshop, glue it on the top.
Yeah,
we could do a load of promo about that.
Yeah, this would be good. All right, you heard it here first, and now we've got to do it, haven't we? We're going to Groundswell soon.
That's
anyway,
a quick turnaround.
At Groundswell last year, and we mentioned, we spoke to Soil Acoustics, and Smith Robotics are actually supporting Soil Acoustics. So I think, okay, maybe there's not that essential utility. There was people coming to the stand whilst we were stood there. We had a good chat with them, and there was people coming up sort of saying, "Oh, what's this? What's that?" And I think they had, money in their pocket, and if it was interesting enough, I think there's a level of, okay, it doesn't have the utility, but it's certainly got that. Oh, that's a sensible price point. Now, I really would like to know, a bit more about what's going on out in my woodland or on the edge of my, on the edge of one of my fields. I think there's you've still got that spontaneity piece, and then you've got the price point piece. They had them there to buy, and they manufacture Balespike products for other people. Some, or not the whole product, I don't think, but parts of those products. So they certainly support Soil Acoustics with some of their manufacturing. And they're still available. I'll do a little bit of a plug for them, but they're still available to support with other bespoke electronics projects. So, if anyone's out there and they're thinking to themselves, I've got that, $1 million idea, and I really need some funding. So I'm going to talk to the UK agri-tech centres, and I need some electronics expertise. So I'm going to speak to Smith Robotics.
Very good. That's a great bit of marketing for them there, Ray. And it was good to chat. And it's nice to see people who we're often talk about opening the doors of ag engineering and the world of agriculture to people who aren't necessarily from our world. And I think Ryan and was fairly fresh to being an ag show. And I say fairly fresh in the comparison to me and you who've been going for 25 years or whatever. So that's good to see. Okay then, Ray, we're going to go over to our headline interview, dare I say it, maybe. We're going to go over to Fendt, where we are hearing from Martin, who is always very generous with his not only views upon Fendt, but also his views upon the market and what's happening in the world of ag eng right now. And as well as hearing from Martin with all those great things, he brought in Phil to chat us through a specific newly launched technology.
Right, so we're right next to the sprayer ring, so you might hear a bit of background noise there, but we're on the Fendt stand, and we're going to hear a little bit from some of the team about some of the new products they've got and actually how they're getting on at the show today, this very wet day. So, Martin, could you give us your thoughts and feelings on the show so far and how you've got on?
Well, I think the naysayers had it that we'd never get into the site and nobody would turn up and it would be full of the general public. And actually, none of the above have been an issue. It was dead easy to get in, very well organised. And the customer quality that we've seen here has been first class. We've seen a nice lot of farmers, particularly from the west of the country, which we don't normally see so much of when we go up to Leadenham or out to Duxford.
Yeah, do you know what? We did our little first day commentary that's already live now yesterday, and we missed that, Ray, is that, we bumped into one of my cousins. And he said, I've never actually been to, because we're from just here. He was like, I've never actually been to Cereals because it always seems a long way away. Yeah. He was like, well, that is interesting, isn't it? It's like a potentially different crowd turning up. So, Martin, what about the general Fendt sales for this year and ag sales this year? How are we feeling? What's the farmer sentiment and what's the checkbook availability?
State of the nation is Q1 really good and really strong, but probably supported by mixed farming in the West and a bit of checkbook usage before the end of the tax year, which is we'd be delighted to help with that problem. And I think that sort of set a bit of an upward push in the industry, because the whole tractor industry is a bit higher this year than it was last year. But the open question is are we going to retain that? Now, 2 weeks ago, I would have said I can see the industry dropping back off because the arable farmers weren't in the best place. Crops did look dry,
Stunted.
And pricing didn't look fantastic. However, wheat prices just ticked up a little bit. Talk of droughts in North America, talk of a small wheat harvest in North America, and we've had not 10 days, but certainly a week of wet weather. And I think for the wheat, it's come perfectly in time. And some nice looking wheat crops now are going to have real good potential, good yield, and hopefully a nice milling premium, which should cheer up the arable farmers.
Perfect for the Fendt buyer.
Exactly.
Marvellous. Cool, right. Phil, ex-student of mine from, I won't pretend to remember how many years ago.
2016 to 2020, yeah.
There you go.
It feels, yeah.
Oh, I need to be doing that a little bit.
Yeah, it sort of feels like a lifetime ago now, but yeah, it wasn't too far away.
Right, cool. So you are holding 2 bits of iron, or some very nicely machined bits of iron. Tell us about what we're looking at, and tell us why it's relevant to the tractor behind us.
Yeah, so we are looking at 2 pistons. So the smaller one then is the piston out of our predecessor tractor. So that's the 700 Gen 6. That's a 6-cylinder engine that we've been running with for the last, let's say 10, 15 years. And then the piston in my right hand is a new AGCO core piston. So in our latest generation of tractors, so that's the new 500, new 600, new 700 and new 800, they all have new AGCO engines which have been designed for stage 5 straight out of the box. So this engine, is getting a little bit dated, kept bolting stuff to the side of it to meet emissions, meet the power, get the torque, etc., etc. But now what Fendt have is a new range of engines called the core engines, which again feature much larger pistons, larger bores, larger strokes. They all operate off of a low rev concept. So the idea is we put less fuel in, use the torque, and try and bring the running cost of that tractor down as low as possible.
So this 620 behind us, being properly labelled as Fendt are, is 200 horsepower because it's a 20, and it's a 6 series frame, and that's going to be a 4-cylinder 200 horsepower tractor, which is pretty
absolutely
extreme.
Yeah. So with how our numbering works, so it's a 620, so that's 200 horsepower, but that's actually at the shaft. So that's at the shaft, out the box when the tractor's new. So we do have an extra 25 up our sleeve for all the auxiliary draws that are found on any vehicle.
So the outgoing, as you say, sort of 7 series would have been a 6-cylinder 200 horsepower engine. Is there still going to be a 6-cylinder offering at 200 horsepower, or is that now goes out the window?
There is a little bit of an overlap between 620 and 720. So there is a 6-cylinder 720 tractor, but you then step up a frame size. So realistically, for our market in the UK, we've got lots of hills. We lug heavy trailers up those hills. It's too much weight. So out of those 2 tractors, I would take the 6 series over that. But again, it's down to the customer and what they want to achieve out of that tractor. If they want a heavier tractor, then we've sort of run them side by side, really.
Critical question is, how much is it going to cost?
How much have you got on you?
Really great to hear from Martin and Phil there. So 4 cylinders, 200 horsepower, 6 cylinders, 200 horsepower. What are you going to pick?
What would the Irish boys at Harper have said to us? There's no what is the phrase?
There's a lot of phrases. I don't know. We can repeat all of them. You're never late with a V8.
You're never late with a V8. No smoke, no poke, no. God, what is the one I'm actually thinking of though? Displacement. What's the displacement one?
There's no replacement for displacement.
Well, interestingly, I mean the displacement of those 4 cylinders was considerably larger per cylinder, wasn't it? I mean, a monstrous bore size. Yeah. Interesting. I don't really have a comment on this. I think I'm not that great on my engine technology, Ray. You're far more qualified than me to talk about this.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to hear how they were kind of generating that power. So a slower, longer stroke, slower RPM, which is kind of, I think, going in the opposite direction. You know, the development of diesel engines, certainly in the automotive sector, has been all around sort of trying to get them to rev like a petrol, and, you know, get the power through RPM. And they're sort of turning the tide perhaps on that a little bit and saying let's go for the torque, and let's go for the longer strokes. Also take
it right back to those like massive single cylinder John Deeres.
Yeah, we're not talking a Field Marshal single cylinder, you know, that it shakes the entire machine to pieces every time it does a stroke every hour. No, we're not quite there, but no, interesting to see. Really nerdy note as well. I'm fairly sure they had the pistons there. I've got a great picture of them both, so I'll pop that up somewhere on our socials. But the pistons, I'm fairly certain, were molybdenum coated on the sides for wear reduction. I did mention that to him, but neither responded. So I don't know if that's a trade secret or something. But yeah, definitely looked like molybdenum coating for me. I've got experience with that and from my engine days. But yeah, really interesting to hear, and it's always good to get Martin's kind of thoughts and feels on the sort of state of the nation, as it were.
Yeah, he's seemingly buoyant, looking forwards through harvest and hoping that machinery sales and specifically for him tractor sales should be buoyant in the autumn, which maybe is not where most of us were at, I think, of a couple of months ago. But what with, as he said, the factors come into play, maybe poor yields in America, maybe good yields here potentially, with the bit of rain that's now come just about in the nick of time. Yeah, maybe farmers will be putting their hands in their pockets for more than just a Balespike product come autumn.
Absolutely, yeah. Worth noting, actually, whilst we were on the Fendt stand, we did, in the very distance, we did see Jeremy Clarkson making his way around the various show stands. So perhaps he might be looking to put his hand in his pocket for Series 6 and try out some new machines.
Yeah, we did have the debate, Ray, of should we have grabbed Jeremy Clarkson for a soundbite, and at the time we were like, no, that's not what a Brash Ag podcast is about, getting a cheesy soundbite. But I think in hindsight, I think we should have done, because clearly the current series 5 of Clarkson's Farm is all about technology. They've been trying farm droids, they've been trying ag seeds. Neither of us have actually watched it, I should point out, but we just know they have. And yeah, I think if we'd stuffed a microphone under his nose and said, what did you think of ag seed? I think that would have been suitably brash ag, that I think we should have probably done it. And ultimately, if he'd told us to F off, then that would have been great content too.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, no, that would have been quite the soundbite.
Yeah, we just didn't want to be fanboys, which neither of us are. But I think if we'd asked a genuine question, I think we could have got away with it. Anyway, great chatting, Ray. Who are we? And that takes us up to the end of our serials coverage for this year. We will be back next year, without doubt. Who are we going to tell this week to listen to the pod?
Oh, who are you going to tell? So when we were there, we saw a really good. We saw an excellent soil pit, didn't we? Where they'd done an excellent bit of excavating right through a crop. We got to see right down through the brash, see the about 7 millimeters of soil that everyone actually grows there. I'm joking, there's more than that, but there's not a lot of soil, and then down into the brash. So that had been expertly dug by someone. So I'm going to say, tell your local friendly digger operator.
Tell your excavator operative that whilst he's in the cab, turn off Radio 2, turn off the test match, and get Brash Ag on.
Absolutely.
Marvellous. Okay, well, everyone, thank you for listening. Ray and I will catch you next time. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your excavator driver.
You have been listening to Raymond King and Kit Franklin. Thrash Ag. Thank you, and tune in next time.